Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Friday. We made it to the end of the week. Your reward. We get to talk some sports together on this Friday afternoon here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're tuning into the program on this Friday, thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero, and well, you got a lot of me today because I'm the only one at the ranch for right now. Brendan Dworzinski is out in Kansas City with Washburn women's basketball at the MIAA tournament. The Ichabod women taking on Pitt State in quarterfinal round play, trying to follow the lead of the men and advance to Saturday's semifinals. They are at halftime at Municipal Auditorium. Washburn leading Pitt State by the score of 28-22. We'll keep you abreast on that one as we go along. But that's where Brendan's at. Spencer Dupuy attending to a family matter. He is out the remainder of the day and the weekend. He'll be back on Monday. So it's me and you hanging out together on this Friday. And you're going to hear a lot of me tonight if you do hang out after 580 Sports Talk. We're going to wrap things up a little early tonight so we can get into coverage of the 580 Preps Road to a Championship. It is Sub-State Championship Friday night. We're punching tickets to the state tournament. 6A, 4A, 2A girls, 5A, 3A, and 1A, 1 and 1A2 boys. And tonight, our featured game on the 580 Preps Road to the Championship comes to you from the Charger Dome right here in the capital city. Topeka West, the number 2 seed in the 5A West boys sub-state, taking on the number 7 seed Bishop Carroll, who very nearly upset Topeka West in the first round of sub-state last year, taking them to overtime before the Chargers ultimately prevailed on their way to the state tournament. Should be a great one. I'll be on the call. The coach, Larry Latimer, will be alongside. We'll go on the air with pregame coverage at about 5:40 or so, ahead of tonight's 6 o'clock tip-off. So we've got 2 hours and 40 minutes, roughly, give or take, to spend together today. And let's make the most of them, shall we? We're going to talk a lot of football today. I thought we would have a Travis Kelce retirement decision by now, whether or not Travis Kelce was coming back to play in 2026. I thought we'd know by now. There are so many gears that are starting to turn across the league. Players being informed that they're being released. Players being informed that they are going to be retained by their current team. There's contracts starting to be handed out, legal tampering, all that fun stuff. Obviously, the Chiefs have been busy. They've restructured contracts. They've cut players. They've made the blockbuster trade of Trent McDuffie to the Rams in exchange for 4 draft picks. But they don't know what they're doing at tight end right now. Or maybe they do, and it's just not public knowledge yet. But we don't know what the Chiefs are doing at tight end right now because we don't know if Travis Kelce is playing in 2026 or not. So how does that decision impact the Chiefs' decision-making when we get to the start of the new league year, which is just 5 days away now? Wednesday is the start of the new league year. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe Travis Kelce's going to tell everybody his plans on the first day of the new league year on a very special episode of New Heights. Maybe that was the plan all along. But what are the Chiefs looking at tight end? And how would Kelce's return or retirement impact how they might pursue the position? I've got a couple of draft ideas. I've got one trade idea that I think would make some sense for the Chiefs in 2026. We'll look at the tight end position. We'll also look at defensive tackle today because today's our final edition of Free Agent Friday. I know it feels like we just started. There's so many fond memories of Free Agent Friday. Well, Free Agent Friday naturally comes to a conclusion when the free agents start finding homes. So it was always meant as a bit of a preview, a prelude to the start of the new league year. So Free Agent Friday concludes today. We're going to look at defensive tackle because there's a player who I think the Chiefs must sign this offseason. Must sign this offseason at defensive tackle. I will tell you who that is and why I think he is a must-add for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll look at the rest of the defensive tackle class as well. Anybody worth offering a contract to, anybody worth taking a flyer on. It, like just about every other position, is long on guys you've heard of and long on guys who can maybe help a team, but short on guys who are big impact players. Except for the one guy I think the Chiefs must go add this offseason. We'll get into that in the 4 o'clock hour. And of course, because it's a Friday, we've got our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, joining us at the bottom of this 3 o'clock hour. Matt Derrick covers the Chiefs, ChiefsDigest.com, and he will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here in about 25 minutes or so. We'll get his take on the Trent McDuffie trade. Haven't spoken to him since that went down, and we'll talk a little free agent strategy as the Chiefs get ready for the start of the new league year next week. We will also on the program today, in case you missed it on yesterday's show, we did it in the 5 o'clock hour. We talked to our pal Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. Hadn't gotten a chance to catch up with him in a good long while. And Mitch had so much great stuff on the Trent McDuffie trade, on the kind of player the Chiefs are losing in McDuffie, the kind of person that is leaving the Chiefs organization, but also where the Chiefs might go from here based on his conversations with the Chiefs brass and his trip to Indianapolis for the scouting combine. We decided we were going to re-rack that for you today. So we will do that in the 4 o'clock hour. Bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, you're going to hear our conversation from yesterday with the great Mitch Holthus. Also in the 5 o'clock hour today, we're going to re-rack Pistol, Rick Peterson of TopSports.News, because yesterday we previewed Sub-State High School basketball. We'll rerun that portion of our conversation and, again, get you ready for all of the games involving Shawnee County teams on a busy night and a busy weekend on the high school hardwood. 14 Shawnee County teams, if you think about it. 10 schools in Shawnee County, the 8 city schools plus Silver Lake and Rossville. Each school has 2 teams, boys and girls. So that's 20 teams. 14 of them are playing tonight. How cool is that? And not just that, 9 of the 10 schools have a team that is playing tonight with a chance to go play state tournament basketball. So we'll preview that, break that down for you coming up again in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll replay our conversation with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. We still got What Is Wrong With You. We're still going to do headlines, do a little bit of On Second Thought. We'll keep our Royals countdown to opening day going as well. All that fun stuff you've come to know and love from the show. Plus, we want to hear from you. Your interaction makes the show better. The text line is open, 785-272-9429. That's 785-272-9429. You can also hit me up in the live chat on our YouTube stream today. We are streaming live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We stream live every day. When we are live on the air, we are live on video. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We put the show out every day. We're putting out little shorts on YouTube. It's kind of like a best of that you get just about every day if you're following us over there on YouTube. And I hope that you will subscribe. I hope you will check out the YouTube chat. And if you are watching the show on YouTube today, I hope you'll hop in the chat and say hi. I hope you'll hop in the chat and grow the 580 Sports Talk community like Vance and Andrew and Mark H. and Paul and Ryan. Appreciate all you guys being a part of the show today over on our YouTube live chat. Well, let's get started with the Chiefs and a position we haven't hardly talked about this offseason because the domino that needs to fall hasn't fallen yet. The will he or won't he for Travis Kelce has not yet been decided. Both Andy Reid and Brett Veach have said this offseason that they have been in contact with Travis Kelce. So it's not like he went on one of those Aaron Rodgers wellness retreats where Aaron Rodgers disappears, goes on a darkness retreat, goes into a shack in like Malawi and smokes crack for a week or whatever it is that Aaron Rodgers is doing out there, and then comes back home to his very real wife who definitely exists. No, it's not that. Travis Kelce's not in hiding. He's out there. He's living his life. He's doing his podcast, and he has been in communication with the Chiefs. So it's hard to believe that the Chiefs don't know what to expect when Travis Kelce finally does make a public statement about whether or not he will play in 2026. But I will say this. In the last week, when you have read articles about the Chiefs from people in the know, folks like Jesse Newell, The Athletic, folks like Nate Taylor of ESPN, both friends of the program, and they talk about the kinds of maneuverings the Chiefs are considering doing on the salary cap, more and more you are starting to see the possibility of the Chiefs cutting veteran tight end Noah Gray. And cutting Noah Gray doesn't save a whole lot against the salary cap. It's $4 million. It's couch cushion money under the salary cap, particularly the new salary cap as it gets over $300 million. But the Chiefs would not be considering that possibility, you think, if they thought that Travis Kelce wasn't going to play. Because in a world where Travis Kelce doesn't come back and Noah Gray gets cut, that leaves the Chiefs with a tight end room of Jared Wiley and Jake Brenningstool. And Brenningstool had a nice little run there at training camp for a few days before he got hurt. And Jared Wiley does not appear to be an NFL player. At this stage, I think we can say 2 years into Wiley's career. Obviously, I know he's dealt with some injuries. He dealt with an injury in college too, but doesn't seem like there's a lot there. Doesn't seem like there's a lot to get excited about with Jared Wiley. Not a lot of real positive reports out of camp the last 2 years. Nothing in preseason. You know, when we have seen him get opportunities, they've been pretty minimal and not that impressive. I don't think there's a long-term solution in the tight end room. Right now, as it stands, I don't think Noah Gray is a long-term solution. I think the Chiefs thought he might have been, and then he disappeared off the face of the earth in the first year of his 3-year contract last year. Chiefs wouldn't throw him the ball. After a really good 2024, he completely disappeared in 2025. I don't know how he got into the doghouse, but he very obviously did. So maybe the thought of releasing Gray is simply the Chiefs saying, look, yeah, we thought we could trust this guy, and he didn't produce last year, didn't perform, didn't get himself open. We didn't really trust him to get him involved in the passing game, and we got to move on without him regardless of whether Kelce comes back or not. But that's a big risk, right? To bring back 2 tight ends, one of whom's never played in the NFL and one of whom has barely played in the NFL. What you do not want to do if you're the Chiefs is lock yourself into a scenario where you have to leave the draft with a player at a certain position, where you absolutely have to find a starter at a certain position. You want to be able to let the draft come to you. You want to be able to go best player available. With 3 picks in the first 40, that could enable the draft to fall really, really nicely for the Chiefs. But they don't want to be in a spot where, boy, we have to take tight end. And maybe that means we got to reach for Kenyon Sadiq at 9. Or maybe we got to reach for Eli Stowers of Vanderbilt at number 29. Now, those are my 2 favorite tight ends in the class. Even if Sadiq isn't your inline tight end, he's much more of what they call a move tight end. Very imaginative reason why, because they move around a lot on the line of scrimmage rather than just staying anchored to the right or left tackle. Kenyon Sadiq tested off the charts at the combine. He left the combine having made himself some money, and it's not a stretch, really, to see him going very early in the draft. In fact, there's one prominent mock draft out there. Danny Kelly of The Ringer actually had the Chiefs taking Sadiq at 9. This was before the Trent McDuffie trade, but still. It's tempting. He's a big body. He ran a 4.39 at the combine. Maybe he's a long-term solution at the position. But is he worth the number 9 pick when you have so many other holes to fill? There's some other intriguing names down the draft, too. I mentioned Eli Stowers. Max Clare, we talked about a couple of mock draft Wednesdays ago. He's a kid from Ohio State. Kid from Ohio, has a background as a quarterback, good route runner, kind of has the Travis Kelce origin story all sort of lined up, hitting all the high notes there. He's a potential day 2 pick. John Michael Gillenborg is one that Mitch Holtz brought up with us yesterday out of Wyoming. He's a Kansas City area kid, went to Rockhurst High School. He tested very well. He's probably more of a early day 3 pick. K-State fans will no doubt remember Baylor's Michael Trigg and some of the outrageous catches he made when Baylor beat K-State back in the fall. He's a big body. Looks like he could be a weapon in the red zone in the NFL. He's a guy that might be a day 3 pick, potentially. But the Chiefs cannot go into next season with just 2 guys. And frankly, they can't with just 3 guys if one of those guys, is 1 more year. The time is probably now to find the Travis Kelce successor. But what if it's not through the draft? I'll float an idea out there. Going to run this up the flagpole, see if there's any interest in you saluting. Let me know what you think in the YouTube live chat or on the text line, 785-272-9429. What about trading for Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears? What about seeing if the Bears might make their former number 1 tight end available? Because he's no longer the number 1 tight end for the Bears. And that's not really his fault. They drafted Colson Loveland. A new coach came in and drafted a new tight end, and Colson Loveland became the primary tight end and one of the primary targets in Ben Johnson's offense. And as a result, Cole Kmet was targeted less than he had been in any of his previous NFL seasons except for his rookie year, and had just 30 catches last year for 347 yards. The year prior, he'd caught 47 passes. The year before that, a career-high 73 receptions for 719 yards. He's got 21 career touchdowns in 6 NFL seasons. Now, he does cost some money, $11.6 million to the cap each of the next 2 years. That's roughly in the neighborhood of what the Chiefs are probably going to be paying Travis Kelce if he does return. So if Kelce doesn't return, we know the Bears are kind of in cost-cutting mode. They just traded DJ Moore, get his salary off the books. And again, it makes sense. They're getting younger. They've got different featured guys in their passing game. They've got their top 3 targets locked in. Roma Dunze's on a rookie deal. Colson Loveland's on a rookie deal. And, Luther Burden out of Missouri. Lost his name there for a second, but Luther Burden is a second-year player on a rookie deal. So they're looking to get younger. They're looking to get a little less expensive in the pass-catching spots. Might be willing to part with a veteran tight end like Kmet. Big body, 6'6", 260, former second-round pick. 2 years, $11.6 million. I'd make the call because I think if you're willing to take on the salary, one of those extra 5th-round picks the Chiefs end up with might be enough to get that done. Cole Kmet for a 5th. Who says no? I don't think the Bears do. And I think that would make a certain amount of sense for the Chiefs if they're not paying Travis Kelce next year. To have a solution at the tight end position who is a proven pass catcher and a proven red zone weapon. I honestly don't hate the idea of him and Kelce together. But again, if Kelce's coming back, that number, that cap number, $11.6 million, that probably looks a lot like what the cap number is going to be for Kelce. Maybe a little less. But Kelce's given a lot of hometown discounts to the Chiefs throughout his career. I think he's going to be looking for a number that might be a little higher. The Chiefs might be willing to give it to him. I think they would be willing to give it to him. And Kelce's not going to play for anybody else. He's not going to say, oh, you won't give me 1 year, 12.5 million. Well, then I'm going to take my talents to Tennessee. No, he's not doing that. He's playing for the Chiefs or he's hanging it up. So that's the other part of this is the Chiefs probably already know in their head what it is that they're going to pay Kelce if he's coming back. And maybe cutting Gray is what allows them to pay Kelce maybe a little bit more than you would pay your average 36-year-old tight end in free agency. But one thing I believe for certain, the Chiefs have to come away from this offseason. They've got a lot of positions. They have to come away with something this offseason, but they've got to add at tight end. And I like the idea of adding an established veteran. If it's not Kmet, maybe it's somebody else that you look to maybe in free agency, because the Chiefs have excelled running 2 tight end sets. And if Noah Gray gets cut, you really want Jared Wiley playing a bunch of snaps? Do the Chiefs want that? I kind of sense they don't. Do you really think Jay Brenningstool's an NFL player? He might be, but he's a UDFA until proven otherwise. But whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency, even with a Kelce return, there should be some investment into the tight end position. Because much as he might like to, much as we might like him to, Travis Kelce's not going to play forever. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Dan Graziano of ESPN had predictions for the contracts that a couple of current free agents who played for the Chiefs last year are going to get. And it got me thinking, would you be okay if the Chiefs gave that kind of money to those players? We'll take a look at it next. Plus, Matt Derrick of Chief Digest coming up toward the bottom of this hour. We got a replay of our conversation earlier this week with Mitch Holtis later in the 4 o'clock hour. Got Free Agent Friday. Got What Is Wrong With You. Got a great Friday show. Really glad you're here on 580 Sports Talk. 3:32 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting underway. Dan Lucero with you on this Friday afternoon. Stay safe out there today. Stay weather aware. If there does indeed happen to be severe weather in the area, we'll keep you updated here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Talking about the tight end position for the Kansas City Chiefs, moves they might make this offseason, whether or not Travis Kelce returns. We talked about the possibility of Kenyon Sadiq as a first-round pick. There's one mock at the Ringer that has Sadiq at number 9. Paul says, I love the Sadiq pick potential. Maybe less love at number 9, but heck yeah. Regarding my trade idea of trying to go get Cole Kmet from Chicago, Andrew says rather would draft Sadiq or Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. The potential to get them exists. Pass on Kmet, would rather have future years the rookie deal than that kind of a contract. Paul also asked if the Packers could be talked out of Luke Musgrave once they get Tucker Kraft back from injury. The thing about Musgrave is he might not be very good. He might just not be that good a player. He's entering his 4th year in the pros, hasn't really broken out. He'd probably be gettable unless the Packers really like doing a bunch of 2 tight end stuff, which I'm not as well versed on the LaFleur offense. Sometimes they like 2 tight end stuff there in Green Bay, and maybe that's just the role they're happy with having a guy on a cheap rookie deal in. But I don't know. I don't know that Musgrave's a great receiver, to be honest with you. I think Kmet's a better player, and even with the difference in money, I think I'd rather go get Kmet. Vance believes in drafting for the long term at tight end instead of making a trade for the short term. Appreciate your thoughts on the chat. Also, this from Paul as well. I thought this was interesting because this was a conversation that Brendan Dworzynski and I had off the air the other day. Paul mentions the chance that the Titans let Chigga go and hit free agency. Okonkwo has shown some flashes. I think he's an intriguing player. And also mentions Will Dissly, who debuted with the Seahawks, played with the Chargers last year. Brendan loves the idea of signing Will Dissly. He'd come cheap, and he would be the kind of inline blocking tight end who is also a receiving threat that the Chiefs really haven't had in a long time. Like the last true inline blocking tight end the Chiefs have had was Blake Bell. And Bell, at that stage in his career, wasn't so much a receiving threat. Dissly could be that inline tight end that the Chiefs have been missing, could help their running game if they're really going to rededicate themselves to it, and is also proven to be a downfield weapon and can make some plays in the red zone. Dissly is a fascinating idea. I know Brendan was pounding the table for that. We were talking about that in my office the other day. So glad you brought him up, Paul. Thank you for the comments again in the live chat. Dan Graziano of ESPN had a list today of 20 predictions for free agent contracts for high-profile free agents. I want to run through these real quick for Jalen Watson and for Brian Cook. His prediction for Cook was 3 years, $42 million, $20 million guaranteed. That's $14 million a year, average annual value. Cam Curl got 12 with the chance to get it to 13 from the Rams for 3 years today. Does that maybe reset the market, bring Cook back closer to 12, 13 million? Because I think I would do that if I were the Chiefs. I'd do 12 million a year for Brian Cook. I'd even do 13. The Watson contract, 3 years, 50 million with 20 million guaranteed was Graziano's prediction. That's 16 plus million. Again, that's cheaper than 30.1 million, which is what the Chiefs were going to have to pay Trent McDuffie, which is why he's not a Chief anymore. Would it be easier to swallow 16 million for a player of Watson's caliber who knows your system? I think you can make that case. But again, if you weren't willing to invest in the best guy at your position, does that mean you just don't feel like you really need to invest in that position at all and are just going to trust your development and your internal drafting and scouting? It sure feels that way for the Chiefs with regard to Watson. Though Cook, I think, as a safety, might be a different animal. Might be. We'll ask Matt Derrick what he thinks. Our Chiefs insider joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. We go to Kansas City and our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline as he does every Friday at this time. Matt, lots to talk about today, so let's just launch into it. What was your initial reaction to hearing that the Chiefs had decided to trade Trent McDuffie?
That they had decided to make the trade was that they had to, that they got something done that they needed to, that they were not going to be able to re-sign Trent McDuffie at a number that made sense for them. And then when I found out what they got in return, I was pretty impressed, Dan. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it feels like a pretty good return for Trent McDuffie as a player who I think the Chiefs would have brought back, like you said, at a number that made sense for them. But I'm not sure that resetting the cornerback market for McDuffie made sense for the Chiefs to do. I'm not sure it makes sense for the Rams to do, but that's just I'm iffy on paying McDuffie the way that other shutdown corners in the league are getting paid, and I don't blame the Chiefs for not doing it.
I don't either, and and that's the thing. I mean, each team's got to make up their own minds, and the two teams are in different situations entirely. The Rams have a lot of cap space. They actually need to spend money because they've been below the cap now for a couple of years, so they actually need to get their floor up a little bit. The Chiefs do not have that problem. If anything, they just did not have the space to shove in. If McDuffie ends up signing for $30.2 million anywhere in that ballpark, that was a number that the Chiefs were not going to be able to shoehorn into the cap. And I go back even to last summer when, I mentioned then that when the Chiefs signed Trey Smith, I had a hard time putting in Trent McDuffie's number at that point. once they got that deal done. It felt like to me either Trent McDuffie or Trey Smith, whoever's going to get a deal signed first. And when the Chiefs made that move with Trey Smith, I felt like that was probably the writing on the wall for Trent McDuffie. And the year he had last year, it wasn't a bad year, but his one weakness was exposed, which is against bigger receivers. For the Rams, I mean, I think they got a sincere need. I think the Chiefs, actually defensive secondary is better than the Rams right now, especially at cornerback. The Rams need somebody, and they're also trying to figure out how to match up against the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are a team that's got 3 wide receivers who are all about 6 feet tall. Hey, that's fine. That's what Trent McDuffie can get. I said this earlier today, and because I'm kind of amending my statement about Trent McDuffie being the best slot corner in the league, because I think that undersells him. I think he's one of the top 3 corners in the league against receivers who are 6 feet taller or under. It's only when you get to the guys who are like 6'3", 6'4" that he really struggles. But when it's shorter receivers, average height receivers, I mean, it's him, it's Sauce Gardner, Derrick Stingley. I think that's about it.
So now where do the Chiefs go at cornerback? They've got Noel Williams and Christian Fulton under contract. They've got a couple of other young, unproven guys like Kevin Knowles and Chris Rowland Wallace. Shamari Connor, I know, played a bunch in the slot last year. This looks like a position of need. What are the chances that they spend money to fill it, even if it wasn't going to be the $30.1 million that Trent McDuffie was going to get? What are the odds they go into free agency, whether it's their own guy, Jalen Watson, whether it's somebody else? Or do you think this is re-entrenching the commitment that the Chiefs have had to build that position from within in the draft?
Yeah, I honestly, maybe a little bit of both, because I do think that the Chiefs want to throw some numbers. They always want to throw numbers at that position. But, what do they covet? They covet, length and size. And Jalen Watson still has that. He's not going to be as expensive, obviously, as Trent McDuffie. To me, can they get a number with Jalen Watson that makes sense for them? And if they can do that over the weekend, I think that's the deal that Brett Veach would love to get done somehow in the next 48 hours, certainly before the negotiation window opens up on Monday. If they can get Jalen Watson done, and now all of a sudden Watson, Christian Fulton, and Noel Williams are your top 3 corners, I think they're feeling pretty good about themselves. I think Brett Veach is going to look at free agency. I would not be surprised if maybe he's looking at more like the second and third waves to see if there's some guys like Christian Fulton who are maybe a little bit more affordable, not obviously top of the market guys, but there's not really a whole lot of top of the market guys out there anyway. I mean, you're kind of going to be looking for niche corners anyway. And I think they're going to address it in the draft now. I mean, when you got 9 draft picks, all of a sudden hitting all of your needs becomes possible. And so whether it's early or late, I think they're going to address it in the draft and give Dave Merritt some more lumps of clay that he can work with.
Matt Derrick is our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk, covers the team for ChiefsDigest.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Any cornerback prospects in the draft you think would be a particularly good fit for the Chiefs, particularly late in the first round?
It's a good question. I haven't really looked a whole lot of that since the trade. I looked at some other positions and everything.
Right, we're all catching up on cornerback, right?
Closely.
We're all catching up on
first round
corner.
I mean, corner hadn't even been anything I've really been worried about, because it seemed like even if the Chiefs were going anywhere at 9, probably not something that I thought that they would address, that early. I'm looking at the list now to see seeing if there's anybody that jumps out to me. I mean, and that's probably honestly where the depth in this draft is. I'm not sure there's anybody worth taking at 9. Guys at 29, probably a little bit more, and maybe even more at 40. So, if the Chiefs were to go that direction, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm not particularly enamored with this group of corners. I mean, it's kind of like the draft in total. I mean, it's a little bit of an underwhelming class, and I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that corner might just be underwhelming, period.
How about tight end? First things first on that. We're 5 days out of the new league year. We don't know publicly if Travis Kelce is going to play in 2026 or not. Do you think the Chiefs know?
I think they do. I'm pretty sure that by now that that Travis has probably told them what he is going to do. That was his plan all along, was making sure that they knew before the beginning of free agency. And no, I don't think he's waiting until 11:59 Monday morning to let them know. I think he's probably already done that. And to me, I'm still of the philosophy that if we have not heard anything from Travis yet, that I think he's coming back. So I guess we'll see when we get the announcement. Hopefully he doesn't dump it out with the Friday trash, but hopefully we'll get that news either over the weekend or Monday morning. But I'm positive the Chiefs know one way or the other.
There have been some rumblings that the Chiefs might cut Noah Gray to save a little money against the cap. And I feel like those kinds of rumblings wouldn't be out there from Chief sources if it weren't for some good feeling about Kelce playing in 2026. But if the Chiefs were to move on from Gray, all of a sudden, in the instance where Kelce returns, they'd be really, really unproven behind him. And it would be another position that they would need to address. Where do you see that as being where do you see them most likely addressing tight end if indeed they do this offseason? Is that a free agent move for the Chiefs, or do they maybe like where the day 2 tight ends might fall for them, or maybe even a day 1 tight end?
Yeah, it's a good question, because that's been a spot that the Chiefs haven't exactly neglected. They drafted Noah Gray. They drafted Jake. I'm trying to remember Jake Wiley's first
Jared
name.
Wiley.
It's not Jake, is it?
No, that's Jake Breedingstool and Jared Wiley. I get the two confused all the time.
I knew Jake Breedingstool. I was just blanking on Jared's name. And they have drafted some tight ends, but at the same time, of the group that they have right now, they might be the highest on Breedingstool. I'm still intrigued about Wiley. He didn't get to play a lot last year coming back from the ACL. But again, you're right. If they don't bring back Noah Gray, and it's not a ton of savings that you get with Noah Gray, but you can get about $5 million in savings if you move on from him. Is that enough? Is it worth it to do that, to get as young as you are? And obviously, if Travis Kelce is not coming back, then I think you're absolutely keeping Noah Gray no matter what. We'll see what happens. But again, especially with Kyle Pitts getting franchise tagged, it's not really a super deep class of free agent tight ends. I could certainly see the Chiefs being in the market, but at the same time, if Kelce comes back, I'm not sure it's a big time priority, because I think they still want to see what they've got in Wiley and Breedingstool.
Matt Derrick is our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us as he does every Monday at this time on the program. A couple more questions for Matt on this Friday. Brett Veach was very explicit before the scouting combine when he talked about where his team would look to address needs this offseason, the highest of priorities, running back and defensive line. And it sure feels like if there are going to be significant free agent allocations made, it would be at those positions. We're going to look at the defensive tackle class here in a little bit on the show of free agents. It's not an overwhelming class, because there's not really an overwhelming class at any position in free agency this offseason. But if the Chiefs do look at interior defensive line, they need both pass rush and plugger, like Mike Pennell types. What would they be more likely to try and find in free agency of those two?
Yeah, and again, it's so difficult to find those guys defensive line either inside or out in free agency, because the best ones never hit free agency. There's usually an issue with the guys that do hit the open market. And, and again, there's two types of defensive linemen that you're typically looking for: an interior lineman, interior pass rushers and big kind of stuffers inside. And the Chiefs, they have the pass rushers kind of covered. They've still have Chris Jones, and I'm anticipating that Chris Jones will be back this year. There's no reason he won't be. And then, you've got the Omar Norman Lott that they drafted last year, who's, again, his strength is being an interior pass rusher. They need a space eater. They need a big dude on the inside, and that's been their difficulty. Their big dudes the last few years have been guys like Derrick Nottie and Mike Pennell. They need to move on from that. They need to get younger, stronger, more explosive in there. Again, though, you look at the free agent market, most of the defensive tackles that you see that might fit that category, I think they're all a little long in the tooth. There's a bunch of old guys out there. I mean, you go through and look at the defensive line, and a bunch of guys in their 30s. Even a guy that I think the Chiefs could be interested in. A guy like John Franklin Myers is, almost 30. He's going to be his age 30 season. I think it would be one that ideally you'd love to address in the draft, especially if you're the Chiefs and if you do see a future with Omar Norman-Lott as your replacement for Chris Jones in the long term, and then you're able to pair him with an affordable interior big run stuffer, 330-pound tackle. That would be ideal. And you know what? There are some players in this year's draft that I think kind of up and down, maybe the first, second, and third rounds, that could be some impressive players as being that kind of guy.
All right, Matt, we got about a minute here. I'm going to let you mic drop here as we wrap up. I'm going to let you just make a prediction. You don't have to explain it. Just make your prediction. March 11th, start of the new league year, the first major Chiefs transaction that is announced at the start of the new league year will be what?
I think their first one will be re-signing Jalen Watson.
Okay, re-signing Jalen Watson. Their first acquisition outside the team will be a running back. I just don't know which one. All right, he's put his name on it. That's Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt covers the team at ChiefsDigest.com. And Matt, when we get a chance to chat next, we'll find out if you were right or not. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Can't wait. You too, Dan. Take care.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll take a timeout, come back, and we will wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk next. Well, my on second thought just changed after our conversation with our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick. I have really believed, and I believed this before the Trent McDuffie trade, and I still believed it the last couple of days, that the Chiefs are more likely, if they're going to retain any of their free agent defensive backs, to re-sign Brian Cook and not Jalen Watson. Matt just predicted that their first move of the offseason, well, not their first move of the offseason, their first move of the new league year is going to be re-signing Jalen Watson. And now I got to reconsider my priors here, because it almost is the same question that the Chiefs were facing with Trent McDuffie. Can you afford to pay this player? Can you afford not to pay this player? The Chiefs could afford not to pay McDuffie because of how much draft capital they got back in return. Can they afford not to give Jalen Watson 16, 17 million a year if it means that by not doing so, you go into next year with a giant question mark at cornerback? Because you don't know if Noel Williams is a starter in the league. You don't know if Christian Fulton can stay healthy. You don't know about any of the rookies. Who's going to be left for you at number 29 if you really even like the class at all? You lock yourself into having to probably take one there with the 29th or the 40th pick. Yeah, maybe they can't afford not to pay Jalen Watson at this point after the Trent McDuffie deal. And that's my on second thought for today. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, Free Agent Friday, we'll take a look at the interior defensive lineman, plus what is wrong with you. And we're re-racking our chat from yesterday with Mitch Holtis for anybody who missed it. That's coming up on hour number 2 of this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Friday afternoon. My name is Dan Lucero. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video streaming channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. We're with you doing sports talk until 5:40 this afternoon, at which point we're going to hand things off, thanks to the magic of radio, to me again, because I will be at the Charger Dome at 5:40 tonight with the coach, Larry Latimer, for high school basketball. The 580 Preps road to a championship continues tonight as we have a 5A boys sub-state championship game between Topeka West and Bishop Carroll out of Wichita. 6 o'clock tip-off at the Charger Dome. Again, myself and the coach, Larry Latimer, will be on the call. We'll also have some 580 Preps road to a championship coverage on Saturday night. At 4:45, we'll have pregame coverage from Tecumseh and the Birdcage at Shawnee Heights. Myself and Larry Latimer will be there for the 5A girls sub-state championship game between Shawnee Heights and Pittsburgh. Thunderbirds trying to go to state for the first time in a decade. They're 1 win away. We'll have that game with a 5 o'clock start. Then when we're done, we're going to throw it to our old pal, our former intern, Trenton Kraxner. He'll have play-by-play coverage from Eskridge, Mission Valley High School, for a 2A boys sub-state championship game between Care Paravel and St. Mary's. Care Paravel trying to do something they've never done, make it to the Acacia boys basketball state tournament. They've won 19 consecutive games going into Saturday. But St. Mary's, no stranger to state tournaments and sub-state championship games themselves. Should be a great game. Trenton Kraxner will be Mike's side for us for that one. That'll be game 2 of our Saturday doubleheader at around 6:30 or so. We'll also have statewide scoreboard shows, both tonight and tomorrow night at 10 p.m., from the Kansas Information Network here on the flagship of the KIN, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Eric Peterson will be at the desk, bringing you updates, scores from around the state, and filling out those state tournament brackets for next week's state tournaments across all 7 classes. So we're going to punch 56 tickets to state over each of the next 2 nights. We are going to do that. And that's 112 teams going to state in total. 8 teams per class, 7 classes, boys and girls. That's the math. So we'll have statewide scoreboard shows 10 p.m. tonight and tomorrow night here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Over on our sister station, Country 106.9, right now, the Washburn Ichabod women are trying to hang on, and they look like they will with 24 seconds to go, leading Pitt State 58-49 in the MIAA women's basketball tournament quarterfinals. Washburn wins. They'll play upset-minded Missouri Western, who took down the number 2 seed Central Missouri, took down, Fort Hays State. They took down Fort Hays State. Central Missouri was the 2 in the men's bracket that got upset. So Missouri Southern, the 7 seed, will take on, in all likelihood, Washburn tomorrow night at 6. At 2:15, Washburn men play at 6 tomorrow in the men's semifinals. They'll play either Missouri Western or Arkansas Fort Smith. Washburn just extended their lead to 11 with 22 seconds to play, so looking good for Washburn. And with this win, it almost makes it absolutely certain that they will, for the first time in 13 years, make the NCAA tournament themselves. So very, very cool. Been a great year of basketball for the Ichabod men and women. So, basketball tonight, Topeka West and Bishop Carroll here on 580 WIBW. Basketball tomorrow, Shawnee Heights girls in Pittsburgh, Care Paravel and St. Mary's boys. Sunflower Showdown tomorrow, 12 o'clock pregame, 1 o'clock tip. K-State from Allen Fieldhouse. We'll have the call from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield. Washburn basketball all afternoon and evening over on Country 106.9. K-State women, who upset Oklahoma State and keep their tournament dreams alive in the Big 12 tournament. They're in the semifinals tomorrow in all likelihood, they're going to end up playing TCU, who is up on BYU at halftime. That game will be over on the Big 94.5 Country tomorrow with a pregame start time of 2:30 and a tip-off at 3. So that's where you can hear all of the action. It has gone final, according to the live stats anyway. Washburn beats Pitt State 60-49. Still to come this hour on the show, Brendan Warzinski is going to join us from the wonders of technology for What Is Wrong With You. We're going to crown a weekly champion on What Is Wrong With You. And also, we're going to re-rack our conversation from yesterday with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. Mitch, gracious enough to join us after his trip to the NFL Scouting Combine last week. We get his insights from there on what the Chiefs might be looking to do as the new league year approaches, and, of course, some thoughts on the recent Trent McDuffie trade. Thought it was a really good conversation yesterday on the show. We wanted to bring it back to you today in case you missed it yesterday here on 580 Sports Talk. But before that, I want to tell you, you can weigh in on the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. You can weigh in on our text line, 785-272-9429. It is the fourth and final installment of Free Agent Friday ahead of the start of the new league year. And we're taking a look at another position that I do think the Chiefs are going to spend some money on this offseason, and that is defensive tackle. We did wide receiver, we did running back, we did edge. Now we're going to do defensive tackle. Skill positions and defensive line. That is where the Chiefs must upgrade this offseason, and where I think they are the likeliest, maybe not so much wide receiver potentially, to spend some money this offseason. And at defensive tackle, there are no game changers. There are no Pro Bowlers. There are no players you have to alter your game plans around. There are a whole lot of veterans, including Calais Campbell, who's going to be 40 next season and is still going to play. But there are a whole bunch of veterans. There are a few gap pluggers, nose tackle types. There are a few pass rushers here and there. But there is one free agent defensive tackle that I must insist that Brett Veach and company do whatever it takes to bring to Kansas City. One player I think could make a significant impact for the Kansas City Chiefs, who missed having an interior pass rush presence next to Chris Jones on the interior last season after the departure of Turk Wharton in free agency, with the injury to Omar Norman Lott, and with the nature of that torn ACL injury and the fact that Norman Lott didn't play a ton of snaps his last year of college football. I don't know how much you can count on Norman Lott. Hopefully long-term he's able to develop, but short-term, I'm not sure what you're going to get from Omar Norman Lott in his second year as a pro coming off of the torn ACL. And with the declines of players like Charles Omenihu and Mike Dana, both of whom used to line up in the slot, on the interior next to Chris Jones at times during some pass rushing situations. Chris Jones didn't have a tag team partner last year. Did not have a player who, if Chris Jones was going to be doubled, could beat a guard in a pass rush situation one-on-one and get to the quarterback. Luckily for the Chiefs, there is one of those out there. Do what you must, Brett Veach. Make John Franklin Myers a Kansas City Chief. This, to me, outside of running back, is priority player number one, or should be, for the Chiefs to add in free agency. Dan Graziano's article at ESPN.com today projected that Myers will receive $40 million over 3 years with $15 million guaranteed. Fine. Sounds good. Do it. Sounds great. $13.3 million a year? All right. Great. Do it. Do it now. Do it ASAP. Bring John Franklin Myers to Kansas City. John Franklin Myers had 7.5 sacks last season. Would have led the Chiefs. 15 knockdowns last season. Wins consistently in one-on-one pass rush situations. And there's the added bonus that adding the former Denver Bronco would weaken the reigning division champs at your expense. He's a guy that's bounced around the league a little bit. The Jets were more than willing to trade him to the Broncos for, I think, a day 3 pick. Jets didn't view him as a real priority. Broncos got some great football out of him the last 2 years, next to one of the best interior pass rushers in the game in Zach Allen. JFM could have a similar impact in Kansas City next to Chris Jones. Make this happen. I haven't pounded on the table for any other player over the course of our Free Agent Fridays. I'm pounding on the table for John Franklin Myers. This is the guy. I'm not as sold on the impact of the free agent edge class. I don't see a guaranteed double-digit sack guy. I don't think Kwity Paye is that. I don't think Boye Mafe is that. I don't think Jalen Phillips is that. I don't think that guy's out there. If you're going to get double-digit sacks from the edge next season for the Chiefs, it's probably going to be George Karlaftis. And you do still need to add at edge because right now it's Karlaftis and Gelati and Felix Anudike-Uzomah, like that's your group there. You've got to add. And I think the Chiefs will. I think the Chiefs probably will with one of their first 3 draft picks. But if they want to add and spend money on a player who will be the most impactful to their pass rush, I think that's John Franklin Myers. And again, I think it is no small added bonus that signing him and him playing for you means he is not playing for the Denver Broncos, who I remind you are the reigning AFC West champions. And it's not just the sacks, 15 passes batted down at the line. The Chiefs love guys who do that. Love guys who get their hands on the ball at the line of scrimmage. Didn't do much of that last season. JFM gives them a guy who can do that. I know he turns 30, but interior defensive linemen age pretty well if you're able to keep them rotated. We're going to talk about some guys in this class that are mid-30s. Calais Campbell's 40, and he's still ticking. I'm not worried about the age. I want the production. I want him away from Denver. I don't want to have to lean on Omar Norman-Lott to be exceptional off the ACL in year 2. They have got to add that interior pass rush back into the mix. They did not have it last year. John Franklin Myers gives it to him next to Chris Jones. Stone Cold needs a tag team partner. Go get it. Go do it. This is the one for me. I know that running back should be the highest priority in the offseason. I believe that. I'm not indifferent, but I think they'd be fine with Kenneth Walker or Travis Etienne. And you could talk me into Tyler Algier as a cheaper alternative. I think the Chiefs will end up fine regardless if they get one of their top 3 targets at running back. I'm not fussed. I like Etienne better, but I'm not going to poo-poo the idea of Walker or Algier either. But the one guy on the free agent list I think the Chiefs absolutely must get is John Franklin Myers. That's how strongly I feel about that. There are other free agents as well, guys who can help. DJ Reader of the Lions has been a good player over the course of his career, good against the run. The Chiefs wanted to add a significant run-stopping player. Might cost them a little more than they've been willing to pay that kind of player in recent years. Like Mike Pennell and Derrick Nottie have kind of worked for peanuts. But I like DJ Reader a lot. It's probably more likely if the Chiefs do spend on, that plugger type of defensive lineman, a nose tackle, that it ends up being somebody who's strictly rotational, like Pennell was, who's not going to give you a pass rush. Somebody like Andrew Billings, formerly of the Bears, maybe Deshaun Hand, formerly of the Chargers. Kyrus Tonga, the Patriots, is out there as a free agent. Maybe he's an option. The Chiefs can also add some rotational pass rush help, I think, for fairly cheap. I mentioned Danico Autry. He's in his mid-30s. He's been an effective pass rusher from the inside. I like the idea of adding him. If not him, maybe it's Shelby Harris, another former Bronco, former Seahawk, last with the Browns. Daquan Jones of the Bills wasn't great last year. Larry Ogunjobi wasn't great for the Bills last year. But those are guys with track records of being able to impact the pass rush. But I think if the Chiefs are going to reach into the grab bag, it's probably going to be for a nose tackle, for somebody to replace what Mike Pennell has brought. And the interior defensive line class, it's intriguing at the top, but it's not particularly deep at the top. I could see the Chiefs maybe looking in the 3rd round for a defensive tackle who could fill that role for their next Derrick Nottie, maybe round 3 or early round 4. But they have got to get themselves a pass rusher on the interior. Got to. And I think John Franklin Myers is the guy. That's the guy I have circled. Top of the wish list. Santa, bring me John Franklin Myers. Because again, I also think that if you have him and the Broncos don't, that's a nice way to get back towards the top of the AFC West heap. That's my guy. That's my thought. Your thoughts? Text line 785-272-9429. Live chat on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. You can hop on in there as well. Still to come this hour of the program. Spoke to Mitch Holtis yesterday on the show. Enjoyed the conversation so much. Thought we would share it back with you for everybody who missed it. We're going to run it back here in a little bit. But first, we got to crown a weekly champion on What Is Wrong With You. That is coming up next after this timeout here on 580 Sports Talk.
Topeka.
What the hell?
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 It's time for What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. 2 news stories. Today we're going to crown a weekly champion here on What Is Wrong With You. Our Monday champ has lasted the week so far. Not working hard, hardly working. That's the former Jacksonville police officer who filed 3 months of fake overtime pay, receiving $14,000 in exchange for work he wasn't doing. He was putting in some work with his boss, who was his girlfriend, was putting in some work, but not the kind that you typically get overtime pay for.
Nope.
Anyhow, that's Brendan Dworzinski. He's in for What Is Wrong With You today to crown a weekly champ. Brendan, why don't you start with your story?
All right, well, mine's gross. I'm going to start with the headline. You're in trouble. Police say DUI suspect urinated in patrol car and flooded the Margate jail cell toilet with a T-shirt.
Oh, no.
A woman who was arrested for DUI is accused of intentionally urinating in a patrol car and then flooding a holding cell with that aforementioned clogged toilet and spreading the urine throughout the cell. According to an arrest report, officers stopped the Florida woman Shakita Brunson, 42 years old, of Coral Springs, back on February 25th after she made an improper turn near Rock Island Road and West Atlantic Boulevard. The officer who initiated the traffic stop smelled alcohol coming from Brunson and noticed that her eyes appeared glassy and bloodshot. She did agree to a roadside sobriety test and performed poorly enough that she ended up being charged with suspicion of DUI, arrested with suspicion of DUI. Authorities said the situation escalated after Brunson was transported to Margate Police Department headquarters, and while being transported, they reported that Brunson urinated in the rear prisoner compartment of the patrol vehicle. Once inside the holding cell, they say that she allegedly clogged the toilet by putting her t-shirt inside, causing the cell to flood. Brunson then spread urine throughout the holding cell and threw more urine outside of the cell, thus contaminating the area. It was severe enough that the department had to call in the biohazard cleanup team to decontaminate both the cell and the vehicle that was used during the arrest. She has shockingly been charged with DUI, refusal to submit to DUI testing, criminal mischief related to the damage, and a citation for the improper turn.
You know, they say you break that seal after you've had a couple of alcoholic beverages. Once you break the seal, there's no unbreaking it.
There's also a quote in this story that refers to the incident as turning the cell into an indoor pool, which is also gross.
No.
Very, very icky.
Yucky. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Do not like.
No. All right. We're going to palate cleanser. We're going to go to my story today. We go to Davenport, Iowa, meet a Scott County couple facing multiple firearm charges after deputies say 38 guns were found in their home last year. This is one of those where the names make the story. We meet Cadillac Saurus Rex and his wife, Manda Saurus Rex. Saurus appears to be a middle name of some kind for both of them. Cadillac is 40, Manda is 35.
That makes it so much worse.
They were searched in relation to an ongoing drug investigation last October. Deputies found a crack pipe and 38 guns, 7 of which were unsecured. Mandosaurus Rex is a convicted felon. Officials said a search of Cadillac Saurus Rex's phone showed a pattern of illegal drug use and evidence of illegal drug sales starting 8 years ago. After an investigation, officials learned that Cadillac Saurus Rex knowingly gave firearms dealers false information to trick the dealers about the legality of transferring 15 firearms. They said he claimed to not use drugs 15 separate times. He is facing 15 counts of fraudulent purchase of firearms and ammunition. Mandosaurus Rex is being charged with dominion control of a firearm weapon by a domestic abuse offender and fraudulent purchase of firearms and admission. And again, these are grown adults whose names are Cadillac and Mandosaurus Rex.
You know how if you are actually...
Not hyphenated, by the way. That's
good.
Saurus space Rex with 2 X's. Also critical information.
Of course. You know how like the old saying goes, if you're a tough guy, you don't need to tell people you're a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing drugs, you don't need to tell the cops 15 times that you're not doing drugs.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that doesn't come up 15 times unless they're pretty certain you're on drugs or have been on drugs at some point. That's not something like if I were to ask you, hey, Brendan, ever use drugs? You would say no, and I would believe you.
Yep.
And I have no evidence to the contrary, no reason to be like, you sure? Like, no reason whatsoever, right? I asked that question once. I get the answer. I'm satisfied. If I have to ask somebody that question 15 times, chances are I've got pretty strong evidence or suspicion that they might be lying to me when they say no.
So you've got the obvious lying about the drugs here. You've got the name changes, which are outrageous. This man is in his 40s.
Cadillac Saurus Rex.
I want to know how old they were when they changed their names. Additionally, third point here, you know who I probably wouldn't want to anger? Arms dealers, not people I'd want to get on the wrong side of. Fourth point here, if you've got 1 crack pipe, then that's 38 guns too many. Fifth point, if you've got 38 guns, that's 1 crack pipe too many.
All true.
Dude, I thought the indoor pool might cruise today, but no, this one's got to win. That's 5 too many elements of what is wrong with you. I think that one has to win today.
Yeah, a lot going on with the Saurus Rexes here. Does that beat our work in overtime?
Dude, what degenerates. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that's a last-minute under-the-wire winner. 5 points. I have a whole dossier of reasons why that's a what is wrong with you.
Why do you keep asking me if I'm doing drugs? Well, number one, we've seen yourself. Number two, we found a crack pipe. Number three, your name is Cadillac-saurus Rex, and you look like Bam Bam Bigelow.
I hope he has that cool shirt with flames on it. Fourth, you keep having to tell us you're not on drugs.
Meet the Rexes, the Saurus Rexes. Yeah. Cadillac Rex? No. Make sure you get it all. Cadillac-saurus Rex. And this is why my wife, Mandy, Saurus Rex. They are our winners. They are our weekly champions. And Under the Wire on this Friday on What Is Wrong With You. When we come back, in case you missed it yesterday, we're going to rerun our interview with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, who had a lot to talk about this week in Chiefs Kingdom. He joined us yesterday. For those who missed it, we're going to re-rack it coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Back in on 580 Sports Talk on this Friday afternoon. Dan Lucero with you. Yesterday on the program, we had the privilege of being joined by the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, who stopped by with us following his trip to the scouting combine in Indianapolis. Mitch obviously had stories to tell about that, and that was kind of what we were planning to talk about with Mitch when we arranged the interview. But then, of course, the Chiefs' trade of Trent McDuffie meant we had to ask about the impact of that trade and Trent McDuffie as well. So we are re-racking that conversation for you on this Friday afternoon for those who missed it on yesterday's program. Without any further ado, here's the voice of the Chiefs. So I have to ask you one question about your trip to Indianapolis. Did you go to St. Elmo's?
Oh, yeah. You didn't see the reel that the Chiefs put out on the Chiefs app. I think it's got, I don't know how many thousands of views, but the first day it had 16,000. I'm sure it's up over that. I haven't checked it lately, but that gives you, after I'm done in a break, you'll have to find it. Easy to find, but it's Matt McMullen and I at St. Elmo's tasting the sweet nectar of the shrimp cocktail. By the way, I love shrimp cocktail.
It looks delicious. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, you see me there. The line, and I'll steal it there, is the fine line between pain and ecstasy. And I was right there.
It is the talk of the scouting combine. More so, 40 times you can have your hand measurements. All I want to know is, did you make it to St. Elmo's or not? I'm glad you got to have the shrimp cocktail. A little jealous, but very glad that you did. Mitch, we look forward to hearing more about your trip to Indianapolis and what you're hearing from the scouting combine, because that is what we originally planned to talk about with your visit to the program today. But earlier this week, the Chiefs traded Trent McDuffie. That trade is going to be made. The Chiefs are going to receive 4 draft picks in return for Trent McDuffie. We know the Chiefs are losing a good player, a great player. What kind of person is that locker room losing with Trent McDuffie going off to Los Angeles?
I don't want to be hyperbolic, but he's one of the most incredible people in my 33 years with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's extraordinary. He has got such a bright future after football. You know, it's not been an easy go for him, losing his brother early on, and the family's faced some other issues. Trent is just a magnificent person. As good as he is as a player, he's that good as a person. I'll just give you an example. You know, I do a fundraiser every spring in Smith Center, my hometown, to benefit the People's Heartland Foundation, the Home on the Range Cabin. I'll have 2, 3, 4 players go every year, fly them in there in a jet, kind of fun. But in 23, right after the Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 57, McDuff went. And he acted like and he's from LA, so let's take that as a precursor. He acted as if he lived in Smith Center all his life. And the people there fell in love with him just like we did, being around him for 4 seasons. But I'll just give you an example. He was so well-liked and so down home that one of the guys on the football team the next fall had texted me and said, could you get Trent to ask this girl to homecoming for me? Because she's really awesome, and I think that this might be the shot that I need. I'm like, I'm not going to ask Trent McDuffie to ask your girl to homecoming, okay? But that's the kind of that's how comfortable Trent made everybody feel. You know, some players will show up at anywhere and be uncomfortable and make everybody else feel uncomfortable. Trent was comfortable in any situation, and a phenomenal player. But I'm going to miss him, and I know the NFL is a transactional league, and we got a mother load of picks for it. It was good to see that, but it's not good to miss him. I will miss him very much.
Yeah, you always want to see both sides win a trade, and that's sort of what you encounter here. That the Chiefs do get an opportunity to add draft capital that is very valuable to them, but Trent McDuffie certainly valuable as a player and a presence in that locker room. The transaction that this immediately called to mind, I think for most league observers and certainly for a lot of Chiefs fans, was the Chiefs' decision to trade Tyreek Hill for draft capital in 2022, and the calculus appearing to be the same, that faced with the choice between paying a player at a top of the market salary at their position or filling other needs with draft picks, the Chiefs chose the latter in the Tyreek Hill case, and are choosing the latter here with Trent McDuffie. Coming out of the combine, really even going into the combine for Brett Veach, but coming out of the combine, at which positions do you feel like the Chiefs are now in better position to restock the cabinet a little bit and rejuvenate their roster in much the same way they did with that 2022 class, of which, of course, McDuffie was a part?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer on March the 5th, only because I would like to have the free agency period go by first and to see where the Chiefs could go. This draft is generally thought, the 2026 draft, not to be won with a bunch of bona fide superstar Myles Garrett types, but there is some depth in the draft. And I think that my best way to answer your question on the 5th of March would be, prior to free agency, would be you're going to get you could get a real good edge rusher at 9 what you want as a player is to be a Pro Bowl caliber player that is going to have an impact on snap one, week one of the season. Now, even getting the 29th pick now because of the McDuffie trade in the first round, you also have the 40th pick and the 74th pick. That's four of the top 75. Edge rusher has some depth. There's also depth at corner in this draft. That excites me, not only replacing McDuffie, but for finding players that can be more impactful. To me, a goal would be for the Chiefs to somehow look more like the Seahawks defense in 2026. Only 12 takeaways. We talk about the ability to get a pass rush. There was really a real weakness in coverage, sans McDuffie. And it's the over and over and over again, the repeated sequence of 3rd and 10 or more and teams making the first down. It cost the team five games. I could sit here without being like super imaginative and tell you that 11-6 was close if you get the defensive stops. Well, if you can get a really good corner here in this draft, and you hope that Christian Fulton will play like he did at the end of the year, and then have Noah Williams emerge at the other corner where he's got a Peanut Tillman kind of mentality. He's got to rock your world and knock the ball out. We've got to have that. No, the Chiefs have to have that in 2026. The other spot would be there's depth at wide receiver. Again, what are you wanting to get in a wide receiver? You want a 1,500-yard pass catcher? Yeah, it'd be great. Are you going to get that? But no, you can get an effective pass catcher. And then this is a right tackle festival. If Josh Simmons was in this draft and healthy, he'd be a top 5 pick. There just aren't left tackles in this draft, but there's this plethora of right tackles. Now, a thought here would be Jalen Moore becomes your swing tackle, which I know he was in San Francisco. He's really not proven to be anything but that so far in his career. For example, if you put him in as your right tackle to start 2026, you're taking a big risk because he has not played at that level of commitment or expectation to be a starting right tackle. Now, if you get a really good right tackle out of this draft, which is very possible at pick 40, at pick 29, even at pick 74, you got a shot at getting it done. Now, all of a sudden, you've got Josh Simmons hopefully ready to rock in his second year. Suat Mati has proven he can play at a very high level at left guard, the best center in the league, a Pro Bowl right guard, and a potential Pro Bowler in a couple years at right tackle. And then Jalen Moore becomes your sixth man. And then you do what everybody's been doing to us the last several years, and that is play 6 offensive linemen a lot and then play action pass and run the ball. Because we're seeing it with more frequency. Chargers, Broncos, Bills do it all the time. The guy waves his jersey, here comes a 6th offensive lineman, and it doesn't really limit their playbook as much. They just come in with an extra blocker. Well, the Chiefs, if they have that ability to do it in 2026, that could lead to a couple more wins.
We're joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holt, this here, courtesy of Hy-Vee and Azure Credit Union. Mitch, you're listening off a bunch of those positions and specifically on offense, and one in which we don't necessarily know the outcome of who will be the starter in 2026 is tight end. Obviously, league year starts next week. We would anticipate Travis Kelce makes a decision here soon. Do you think the Chiefs front office has an inkling of what he's going to decide?
Well, Coach Reed and Brett Veach both told you publicly that there is communication. And so it's not going to be a surprise either way. And I think that continued communication is good. Now, you also have to figure out what is the price that Kelce will play for in 2026, because the Chiefs just loosened up cap room, but they would like a lot of that cap room to be involved in free agent shopping starting as early as Sunday, Monday of next week with the legal tampering period, which is the weirdest thing I think in pro sports. But be it here nor there, a tight end, there's a pretty good tight end class. Let me give you a couple. That Sadiq of Oregon, I think, is potentially elite. Now, he doesn't have the size of a Kelce, but he can run the entire route tree. Is explosive, play in the slot, give you mismatches. More of what we're seeing now in the league with a Dalton Schultz type, or those kind of players, more of a move tight end than an inline tight end. But there are other guys. Eli Stowers at Vanderbilt is a guy that comes to mind, a converted quarterback who did a really good job at the combine. Stowers can come in and give you an immediate week one impact in morphing into your system and in your offense. Galenberg, the kid from Wyoming, who's a local kid. He played at Rockhurst. His dad, I just did a presentation for the Kansas City Bar Association. His dad was super involved. He goes, well, you're going to see my son here pretty soon in the draft. But there's several tight ends that would fit the Chiefs' offensive scheme and approach that could be a complement to Kelce or become a new Kelce or a complement to Noah Gray.
Mitch Holthus is our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. He joins us courtesy our friends at Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, Brett Veach spoke about two positions in particular that the Chiefs know that they need to hone in on this offseason and add to. And you spoke about running back a little bit, and that's one certainly where every running back on the team, other than Rashard Smith, is a free agent. So obviously there's a lot of room to add to that depth chart. But the other one was defensive line, and that's another position where there's just not a lot of returning players. After Mike Dana's release, there are even fewer. The edge position has some big-time talents that might not be available at number 9, but a lot of depth at that position in the draft that could be appealing late first, early second round. But now that the Chiefs have done a lot of maneuvering salary cap wise in the last handful of days, do you think that that is where they might be the most aggressive, looking to add in free agency? Is that maybe where Brett Veach is going to be most focused on adding not just starting caliber players, but important depth at a position where the Chiefs are looking to really add to and fill out their depth chart?
Excellent question. And I would say that it's a close second to running back. I think running back would be at the top of the list, and then an inside defender on the defensive line would be a close second. Now, let's go back to the question, though, of where the Chiefs are setting and this overall draft look at 2026 and what it's about. It's why it was key to get 29 in the McDuffie trade, because at 29, hear me out on this, you could get, and having 29 and 40, you could get a starting rookie, two-gap type defensive lineman, basically younger, maybe more athletic version of Derrick Nottie at 29 or 40. And if you want to take something else at 29, like wide receiver, then at 40, you have the luxury of taking that starting defensive lineman. And if it works out right, and let's say you get an edge rusher, a Desmond Bain Jr. at 9, and you get a defensive lineman at 40, now you've made a big stride forward. And then maybe a lesser expensive free agent to join the defensive line, but you picked up a running back, Travis Etienne or Tyler Algier, or maybe even Kenneth Walker II at running back. Now you're getting in a spot where you can take the rest of the picks and have a little more luxury instead of being so position specific. But it's key to have 29 and 40 in specific when you look at that position, the inside defensive line.
Last one for you, Mitch. I know that when Veach spoke to assembled media before the start of the combine, he talked about the challenge of this offseason, going from what he described as kind of maintaining the roster to now doing a little bit of restocking and trying to get the level of talent all across the roster back up. Do you sense that this is energizing for this Chiefs front office, or do you sense maybe that they feel a little bit of pressure going into this offseason, knowing how rare this opportunity to pick this high in the draft is or should be while Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, and the understanding of that desire to get right back as soon as possible to a Super Bowl level? What would you describe as the vibe around Brett Veach and the scouting department and this Chiefs offseason, or in this Chiefs front office entering this offseason?
My answer would be both, because I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it's an and instead of an or, because there's, first of all, I'll take your latter inference. There's always going to be pressure around this team. As long as Mahomes is the quarterback, Reed's the coach, and Veach is the general manager, and you've had the level of success, sans last year going 6-11, there's always going to be pressure around this team. Can they return? Can they return at elite level? Or can they return as being a favorite, if not somebody that's going to be involved in the AFC race? That's always going to be there. That'll be there from the first second at the start of the season at training camp. However, and this has been one of the byproducts of, and I grew up on a farm, and many times in Smith County when we would grow up, we had to fallow the field, meaning you were in a crop rotation, but you didn't always plant the field to a crop because you wanted the soils and the moisture to build up in the soil. Now, the reason I say that is this feels like a bit of a fallowing for the Chiefs by not making the playoffs. It has energized this team because we're not sitting here just ground into the dirt with bald tires of trying to fight it out to get another Super Bowl. And so it has been a plus for everyone to back off and look and then dig in to reboot to start to build the next group. It's what happened in 2022. We just happened to win the Super Bowl after that. And you alluded to the Tyreek Hill trade. It's very similar to that, although the Chiefs were in the playoffs, but it was a disappointing AFC championship loss to the Bengals. Now, it's that kind of feel, but even a little bit more energy because the Chiefs weren't worn out by some long playoff run, and it has allowed the team to be very introspective, and I do sense a little bit more juice for the team to attack the 2026 free agency and the draft.
Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joins us as a courtesy of our friends at Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. It is great to hear your voice in this offseason, Mitch. Makes football seem not all that far away. We'll catch up again real soon as we get closer to the NFL draft.
Let me tell you what I also picked up from the Combine. It's not as much about 40-yard dashes or shuttle runs. It's more all of the conversation that goes on. One thing we can maybe go on in a couple of weeks again, but the medicals, if people find our podcasts from the Combine and our live stream that we had a week ago, portrayal of what a player's medical is like and what they're about, because some of these guys now go to 3 high schools and 4 colleges. It has really made it more difficult and convoluted to get a good read on a player. The Combine is about that. Plus, it's also about the wink, wink, nod, nod. Oh, it's the agent for the, hey, Ralph, what's going on? Hey, what are you thinking about Leo Sano? What, it's the whole, the old Jerry Maguire scenes where you're bumping into the guy's agent, like, well, hey, what do you think about Dan Lucero? Like, would you sign him? Or, what do you think? What are you thinking? Like, there's a zillion conversations like that. It's the informal conversations that the Combine, to me, is all about. It was fascinating.
My 40 time would not be pretty, Mitch Holthus. I could tell you that right now.
Well, I bet your interview would be at least halfway compelling.
I would like to think so as well. Mitch, you are always compelling when we have you on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for the time, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, man. See you guys.
That is the great Mitch Holthus. We'll come back and wrap up this 4 o'clock hour with the countdown to Royals opening day here on 580 Sports Talk.
Camping season is right around the corner. Perfect timing for Four Seasons RV to double where the fun begins.
Now there's a second Four Seasons RV, and this one is serving the Wichita area on Ledgerwood Road in Andover, featuring popular RV brands including Heartland, Axiom, Intech, and Encore RV.
It's not a corporate chain. Four Seasons RV is owned by a Kansas RV family, and now it's twice as good.
Four Seasons RV, where the fun begins. KansasRV.com.
Abilene and Wichita.
So my friends over at Pure Talk have been sending me customer feedback from consumeraffairs.com, where thousands of people rate and review the top wireless providers. Here, for instance, is a nice note from James in Raleigh, North Carolina, who writes, quote, after hearing Mike Rowe's ad, we made the switch to Pure Talk, and we couldn't be happier. We went from spending $1,200 a year with T-Mobile to $420 with Pure Talk. Thanks, Mike. Switch today! ! Pure Talk is saving James $820 a year. And because he literally wrote the words switch today in capital letters with an exclamation point, I'm going to go ahead and dedicate this commercial to him. So folks, take it from James. in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pure Talk can give you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month on the same 5G service the big guys are overcharging you for. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe. You'll also save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 to save an additional 50%. Thanks, James.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
WIBW, Topeka.
Wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. It's 21 days until Royals opening day. Our countdown continues to March 27th when the Royals open regular season play in Atlanta against the Braves. Royals don't have a number 21 on their active roster. Mark Canha wore it last year. Veteran outfielder who came over from the Mets, supposed to help hit left-handed pitching and didn't do much of anything. It's the worst-case scenario for the Starling Marte signing this year, all the way down to former Met. The Royal to wear it first, the delightfully named right-handed pitcher Aurelio Monteagudo, who wore it back in 1970. The Royal who wore it best, you know him well if you watch the Royals on television. It's Monty, of course, Jeff Montgomery, who saved 304 games in his career, all of them with the Royals, and all with the number 21 on his back. Royals play the Dodgers tonight in Cactus League play. Lost big 15-9 to the Rangers on a blustery and offense-friendly night in Surprise. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we got headlines. We're going to preview sub-state basketball. You'll hear portions of our recorded conversation from Rick Peterson from yesterday, and we'll get you all set for our 580 Preps Road to a Championship game coverage tonight between Topeka West and Bishop Carroll in 5A boys. That's all coming up on the final hour of 580 Sports Talk.
Patterson.
Let's get it. Third and final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Friday afternoon. So glad you're with us here on the Sports Voice of Kansas to wind down the week. 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And, of course, those of you still hanging out with us on our video streaming channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. Dan Lucero here, been flying the plane solo all day. Spencer Dupuis out for the weekend. Brendan Dworzinski in Kansas City with Washburn basketball. It's a big night. It's a busy weekend here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. We've got sub-state basketball tonight from the Charger Dome. I'll be there alongside the coach, Larry Latimer, as Topeka West tries to make it back-to-back state tournament appearances in Class 5A, but to do so, they'll need to get through a very good team from Bishop Carroll. Tip-off is set for 6 o'clock. We'll have the pregame coverage right around 5:40 here tonight on 580 WIBW. State tournament tickets will be punched tonight for girls basketball in Class 6A, 4A, and 2A, and for the boys in 5A, 3A, 1A1, and 1A2. And the opposites will be true tomorrow night. We'll have recaps and scores and set the brackets for you on tonight's high school basketball scoreboard show from the Kansas Information Network. Eric Peterson will be on the desk and recap the first night of sub-state championship action here on the flagship of the KIN, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Again, that'll start tonight at 10 o'clock sharp. We'll do it all again tomorrow night. We'll have a doubleheader for you with Shawnee Heights girls taking on Pittsburgh at 5, followed by the Care Paravel boys against St. Mary's in Class 2A at 6:30, and another statewide scoreboard show at 10 o'clock tomorrow night here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. And then our state tournament coverage will begin on Tuesday. We'll have day-long coverage from the semifinals and championship Saturday, Thursday through Saturday. Our coverage abilities will depend on a couple of things. They are TBD, but we will have games for you Tuesday and Wednesday as well from the neutral site quarterfinals here on 580 WIBW. So that's coming up. That's why we're a little short tonight. Still to come this hour, we'll have a more in-depth preview of the sub-state action, tell you about all the games involving Shawnee County teams that are coming up tonight, and hear from Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. In case you missed it yesterday, Pistol joined me, and we previewed all of the Shawnee County games that will take place these next two nights. So we're going to re-rack that for you coming up here in just a little bit. Rick Peterson of TopSports.News, who joins us, of course, every Thursday at about 3:35 for the local sports spotlight. We'll also, of course, get to a final word before we end the program as well. But we start this final hour of 580 Sports Talk, as always, with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And we begin with those heart attack cats in KC. How about the Kansas State Wildcats, the 12 seed in the Big 12 women's basketball tournament, going where no other 12 seed in the history of the tournament ever has, to the semifinal round. They defeated Oklahoma State 74-73. Oklahoma, the tournament's number 4 seed. If you missed the action from this morning and afternoon, it was another thriller, another second half rally for the Wildcats. They were down 42-33, as many as 9 in the third quarter, fought their way back into the game, took a late lead. When Jordan Spicer hit a three-pointer with about 20 seconds left, K-State had a 5-point lead. Felt like the game was over. The game was not over. Oklahoma State scored, then forced a tie-up, got the ball back, hit a three with about 5 seconds left, tied the game at 73. Neither team could call a timeout, so K-State had to go the length of the floor. They got bailed out. A reach-in foul committed by Oklahoma State star Staley Hurd. with 1.3 seconds to go. And not only did she commit the foul, she fouled K-State's best free throw shooter, Tess Heel. Heel made the first to put K-State in front, then intentionally missed the second. Without a timeout, all Oklahoma State could do was rebound and heave one about 80 feet. The shot never got close, and K-State wins it 74-73. It's been a fun week seeing this young Wildcat team come together. It had been, as we talked about, an up and down year for Jeff Mitty's Wildcats, but they are on a high right now. Jordan Spicer playing like one of the best freshmen in the country right now. She had 21 points to lead the way for the Wildcats, knocked down 5 3-pointers. She has absolutely been stroking it from three-point range in this Big 12 tournament. And so K-State battles on to play another day. They'll be in the semifinal tomorrow afternoon. If you're a Cat fan, you got to get out there to Kansas City. I mean, look, if we're being honest with each other, the K-State men aren't really going to give you a reason to get out to the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City this year. So maybe go see the women at the semifinal tomorrow. It'll tip off at 3 o'clock, which means we'll have coverage starting at 2:30 with the pregame. This is an important note because of the conflict with the K-State men's game at the same time, the men tipping at 1 o'clock at Allen Fieldhouse. We'll have coverage of the women on our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country. So do note that change, that the Big 94.5 Country will be the broadcast home for the K-State women tomorrow in the semifinals. If you would like to hear that game, just turn your dial over to 94.5, the Big 94.5 Country, and you'll be able to hear all of the action. But another remarkable win by Kansas State. Tried to give it away there at the end, but Tess Heel, cool as a cucumber at the free throw line to knock down the game-winning free throw, and another thrilling win for Kansas State at the Big 12 tournament. They have to win the tournament to make it to the NCAA tournament. They entered the tournament with a losing record, and now looks like they'll finish with a winning record this year. They're 18-16 after the win today. Our next headline, as we continue a little bit of media news, Royals.tv, the new broadcast home of the Royals on television, made their debut last night. The Royals, as I mentioned earlier, kind of took it on the chin, 15-9 against the Texas Rangers last night. Tough night for Cole Reagans, tough night for John Schreiber. But if you look at all of the Cactus League scores last night and yesterday, it was just a tough day to be a pitcher. The wind was really kicking up across the Valley of the Sun. It was just an offensive kind of day. Ask the Padres. They scored 27 runs in their win over the Mariners. So I never really pay attention to bad results for pitchers, especially at this phase in spring when pitchers are out there on the mound working on things, trying to get their reps in, trying to work on their pitches, make sure they feel comfortable. It's really not till later in the spring when guys are starting to stretch out their length a little bit that you really start to look at results as even mattering the tiniest bit. But I would even especially throw away the results for Reagans and even Schreiber. They were not pretty, but I'd toss them out. I don't think they mean anything. Anyhow, that was the debut of Royals.tv, and you're going to see and hear from all the familiar voices. It won't be any departures from the crew that has been bringing you Royals games on television for the last handful of years on FanDuel Sports Network, Bally Sports Network, FS, Kansas City, all of those networks that have hosted Royals baseball. Still going to be Ryan Lefevre and Jake Eisenberg doing play-by-play. Still going to be Rex Hudler. Still going to hear from Jeremy Guthrie, Mike Sweeney. Still going to hear from Jeff Montgomery and Joel Goldberg on the pregame and postgame. But there have been a couple of additions made. Bridget Howard, who's a K-State alum, played soccer at K-State, the daughter of former Royal David Howard, and so a Kansas City area native. She will be joining the Royals broadcast team this year. She'll be the first woman on the broadcast team, gosh, since I've been paying attention. It's been a long time since there's been a woman on the Royals broadcast team, TV or radio. So that's very cool. She'll be a part of the broadcast, as will, it was announced today, Eric Hosmer. He'll be joining Royals.tv's crew, and he will be providing game analysis. So you'll hear him in the booth. You'll also maybe hear him with Goldberg and Monty on pregame and postgame coverage. I don't know how many games it's planned for Hosmer to do, but be hearing a familiar voice, Eric Hosmer, back with the Royals in an analysis capacity. I'm interested to hear how it goes. Hosmer's got, for a guy who played fairly recently, some old school sensibilities that I don't always agree with his opinions that he espouses sometimes on social media about the game and how it ought to be played. But I do think he's got a good sense of humor. I do think he's got a lot of love for the Royals, and I hope that comes out in his broadcasting. So Eric Hosmer joining the broadcast team for the Royals. Let's get into some NFL headlines here on the 580 Sports Talk headlines. Lots of NFL headlines to tell you about today. Couple of signings have been agreed to. Los Angeles teams were busy today. The Los Angeles Rams agreed to a 3-year, $36 million contract with free agent safety Cam Curl, who was their own free agent. So they are signing Curl before Curl can hit the market. Add-ons in the deal could take it up to $39 million a year. So you do the math, $12 to $13 million a year for Cam Curl. Why is that noteworthy? That's probably about the Brian Cook market. So we talked about it earlier on the show. If you're wanting the Chiefs to bring Brian Cook back into the fold, that's probably going to be what it costs. That's probably the framework, something in that 3-year, $36, $39 million range. The Los Angeles Chargers, meanwhile, are adding to their offensive line, which was, of course, injury ravaged last year and has already suffered a couple of departures this season. They've cut starting guard Mekhi Becton, and starting center Bradley Bozeman announced his retirement. Chargers are going to replace Bozeman with Tyler Biadasz, who was released earlier in the week by the Washington Commanders. They're in agreement in this legal tampering period on a 3-year, $30 million deal to bring Biadasz to the Chargers. He's probably a better player than Bozeman, so it's an upgrade, even if you consider the lack of continuity there. Biadasz spent 4 seasons with the Cowboys, last 2 years with the Commanders, and now will join the Chargers. While we're on the subject of AFC West teams making moves, the Los Angeles Raiders will release Geno Smith. Obviously, they're going to move forward with the number 1 overall pick. Everybody knows that's going to be Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. But Geno Smith will be released 1 year after the Raiders gave a 3rd-round pick to the Seahawks to acquire the veteran quarterback. The Raiders will open up about $8 million in salary cap space by releasing Geno Smith. They're going to eat $18.5 million in dead money, but frankly, they may as well move on from their dalliance with Geno Smith, who regressed significantly last season, and move forward with the Fernando Mendoza era. One other veteran player getting released today, and I think this one is an interesting one to note. Teron Johnson, veteran cornerback, slot corner for the Buffalo Bills, is going to be released. And this is less about Johnson's play than it is about they're going to be changing schemes. They'll have a new head coach, new defensive coordinator in Jim Leonard. So with a new scheme, maybe they don't view Teron Johnson as quite as much of a scheme fit. But he has spent all 8 years of his career with the Bills. He's been a steady contributor. He's made some big plays. Remember, he had a game-sealing interception for the Bills to beat the Chiefs in a regular season game at Arrowhead Stadium. I want to say 2, maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4. But Teron Johnson, solid player, still has some good football left. I might make a phone call if I were Brett Veach. I might kick the tires on Teron Johnson if I were the Chiefs general manager. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, a sub-state basketball preview here in Shawnee County. We'll re-rack our conversation from yesterday with the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Welcome back into this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero with you for just a bit longer. We're going to hand things off to myself at 5:40 tonight from the Charger Dome, when we will bring you coverage of the 580 Preps Road to a Championship. 5A Boys Sub-State Championship game should be a good one. The number 2 seed, Topeka West, against the number 7 seed, Bishop Carroll. Topeka West, one of 14 Shawnee County teams who are playing in Sub-State Championship games. And on yesterday's program, during the local sports spotlight, we had a chance to preview a few of those games with the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.news, who, of course, knows the territory better than anybody and covers it for TopSports.news. Here are portions of that conversation, again, taped from yesterday's program, giving you a bit of a preview of tonight's sub-state action, which, again, every game tipping off at 6 o'clock or 7:30 in the case of 3A, 2A, and 1A doubleheaders tonight. Here are Pistol's thoughts, along with my thoughts, on tonight's sub-state championship games and tomorrow's as well, involving Shawnee County teams. We'll start with Friday's games. 6A girls action, both Topeka High and Washburn Rural going on the road in sub-state championship play. Rural hoping that they've hit their stride late in the season, as they so often do, but they've got a big task in front of them taking on Derby. Topeka High's got a long bus ride to go out to Liberal, but there aren't many teams in 6A playing better than Topeka High right now.
Well, I'm picking Topeka High. If they don't get lost along the way, I think if they can find Liberal, I'm picking them. They're just playing too good right now. I think they've played some good teams like Rural and Manhattan, some of those. And as far as Rural will really have to have a great defensive game. And Maddie Vickery and Brent Anderson will really have to play well to get them a chance, because I'll be honest with you, Derby's the best girls team I've seen this year.
They were outstanding at the Capital City Classic. Them and Wichita Heights. Those are the top 2 seeds in the 6A West in girls basketball. To 5A boys, game we'll have for you right here on 580 WIBW tomorrow night. Topeka West, number 2 seed out west in 5A, taking on Bishop Carroll. Old Dale Faber still coaching. He's back at Bishop Carroll, 18 years at Friends, 13 years at Bishop Carroll before that. One of my favorites that I've covered in my broadcasting career. He's got Bishop Carroll playing really good ball, and they almost knocked off Topeka West last season at Sub-State. So I have to imagine Christian Olsaker's Chargers have their antenna up. They know they're in for a challenge tomorrow.
Yeah, and you know that anytime you play Bishop Carroll. I mean, Bishop Carroll's the type of team that they're not going to wow you, but they're going to play really disciplined. They're going to run their stuff really well, and they're going to try to keep you from running your stuff. And they're always going to be good. And so I think it's a tough draw for West, but I really like the way West is playing.
Seaman is at home, the boys, against Hayes tomorrow night as well. Vikings trying to get back to state, and what we now know and can talk about publicly is Craig Cox's final season on the Viking bench, and they'll have a tough matchup in front of them, but I think they've got to feel good about getting over that first-round hump after they got upset in the first round last year.
Yeah, and they should, and they look like they played well, and I think I like the way they're playing. Kayvon Bonner's one of the absolute best players in the whole state. The key for them, particularly against a good Hayes team, Hayes also knows he's one of the best players in the entire state, and the Vikings are going to have some other guys step up and hit big shots and make big plays.
Shawnee Heights is at home on Friday night. The boys taking on Leavenworth, who stunned St. James Academy in their first-round sub-state game. Shawnee Heights swept Leavenworth pretty handily in the regular season. Do they have one more win in them to send Ken Darting back to state in his final season?
Well, you would think so. I like their chances, because St. James, everybody, the people who were talking to me thought St. James was the best team in the East. And so to get them knocked off, I think in what I consider the biggest upset in that first round anywhere in any class, boys or girls, I think that's good. You'd much rather have a team that you've played twice, beat twice. And I would like to see, Kenny get one more trip to a familiar road he's taken to state championship tournaments in 3 different classes.
Other county and city teams in action Friday night. Hayden girls in 4A will be at home against upstart number 13 seed Baldwin. Silver Lake plays Perry LeCompton in a 3A boys sub-state final. And Rossville, the number 9 seed in their 2A sub-state, their girls will take on Mower Hill Mount Academy for the right to go to state. Now to Saturday, the 6A West sub-state. Topeka High goes out on the road to Mays after they beat Washburn Rural last night and did it without a stellar three-point shooting night, which is not what they've done recently. They've really leaned on the 3, but proved they could win without a huge night from behind the arc. Could Robbie Sanders' team pull the upset? Mays is 18-5, but it hasn't been a strong 6A group this year. It feels like an upset is possible if Topeka High can let it fly from downtown.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that High all of a sudden they don't know how good they are, and they don't know how good the other teams are. So I think they play pretty fearlessly, and I don't think they're looking at that as they're a big underdog. I think they could play with anybody at this point in the season.
A game we'll have for you on Saturday night, a 5 o'clock tip-off from Tecumseh. Shawnee Heights, the number 2 seed in the 5A East sub-state, taking on the number 7 seed Pittsburgh. Another retiring coach, Bob Wells, trying to get that team back to state for the first time since 2016. And you talk about teams that are playing exceptional basketball, 19-1 since a 1-3 start. It's been a lot of fun watching that Thunderbird team come together this season, Pistol.
Yeah, and I talked to Coach Wells quite a bit last week, and he's just really enjoying this ride. And you know, I was a little surprised he decided to call it quits this year with so much talent coming back. But he just thought it was a good time both to step aside from teaching and coaching. So obviously he wants to go out with a bang, and he's got the team that can do that.
Hayden's boys go on the road in Class 4A. They'll have to do something nobody's done all year long if they want to keep playing, and that's beat Atchison, the undefeated number 2 seed in that sub-state. But we know Hayden loads up their schedule with a purpose, and they won't play with any fear of the Phoenix on Saturday night. What's their road to an upset?
That's my upset special. I think they can go on the road. If they get good outside shooting and a strong inside game from Connor Hanukkah, I certainly think they can pull off the upset.
And lastly, Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. Care Paravel's never been to the Acacia State Basketball Tournament on the boys' side. They've got a chance. A game we'll have for you right here on 580 WIBW on Saturday night. They take on St. Mary's. Prolific offensive team, scored 89 points in a win over Valley Falls last night. But Care Paravel keeps finding ways to win. I think they've won 19 in a row. Do Chip Kiefer's boys have a chance to pull one more rabbit out of their hat?
Yeah, and St. Mary's is good, and they're going to be a tough draw for Care Paravel. But like you said, you got momentum, you got history, trying to make history. I think they'll play. I think they'll give them a good go.
Again, that was Rick Peterson joining the show yesterday for the local sports spotlight. Joins us every Thursday on the program at 3:35. Don't want to leave out the other 2 sub-state championship games involving Shawnee County teams on Saturday. Silver Lake girls hosting Riley County in Sabetha in Class 3A, and the Rossville boys playing Kansas City Christian in Eskridge in Class 2A. Again, our coverage tonight, we've got Topeka West and Bishop Carroll. Pregame coming up in just a bit here at 5:40. The tip-off at 6. Then on Saturday, we'll have a doubleheader for you. Myself and Larry Latimer will be on the call from Tecumseh as the Shawnee Heights girls face Pittsburgh. We'll be on the air at 4:40 with the pregame show. 5 o'clock tip-off there. Then we'll throw it out to Eskridge. Trenton Craxner will be Mike's side as Care Paravel tries to make history and make the Acacia State Basketball Tournament for the first time ever. They play St. Mary's in Eskridge, and Trenton Craxner will have the play-by-play coverage of that game 2 of our doubleheader scheduled for a 6:30 start tomorrow night. Stay tuned to 580WIBW.com, 580 Sports Talk on X, 580 Sports Talk on Blue Sky, and WIBW News on Facebook as we'll get you information as far as which state tournament games we will be carrying as our airtime allows throughout next week. We'll take one more time out. We'll come back. We'll put a wrap on things here on 580 Sports Talk. Get you ready for high school hoops.
conclusion. You better wrap it up.
It's final word time on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this edition of the program, getting you set for high school basketball and a full weekend of hoops on the sports voice of Kansas. Final word for me is about one of the games that we really haven't gotten to on the show today. It's the regular season finale for Kansas and Kansas State at 1 o'clock at Allen Fieldhouse. The second edition of the Sunflower Showdown this season between the Jayhawks and the Wildcats. Look, K-State hasn't won at Allen Fieldhouse since 2006. This doesn't feel like the group that's going to snap that streak. Kansas hasn't lost a senior day game in 42 years. They don't seem like the kind of group that's going to let that streak slip. Kansas has something on the line in this game as it pertains to Big 12 seeding. They're trying to secure a double bye. They could still move up to the 3 seed. They need some help, but they can secure the double bye with a win, while K-State, no matter what they do, they're locked into the number 15 seed in the 16 seed Big 12 tournament next week. All signs pointing to a Kansas win. Now, Kansas has to play better. They didn't play well against Arizona State. If they play that poorly, if they shoot that poorly, if they can't convert second chances, if Darren Peterson goes 3 for 18 from the field again, they open themselves up for the possibility of an upset. Kansas State has played much more coherently, particularly on offense, since Matthew Driscoll has been the interim head coach, and they'll get P.J. Haggerty back, and now they think they can win regardless whether they have him or not after they won without him against West Virginia in their home finale on Tuesday. Kansas State, I'm talking about. So Kansas State, nothing to lose. KU, so much to gain and lots of streaks to play for. A lot more to play for the Jayhawks. They won by 22 earlier this year. I don't expect they'll have a problem at Allen Fieldhouse, but they are going to have to play better. And they would like to end their season on a high note with a Sunflower Showdown sweep for their 6 seniors. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We'll be back on Monday from 3 until 6. High school basketball coming up next. Myself and Larry Latimer from the Charger Dome as Topeka West takes on Bishop Carroll. That's coming up. Hope you'll stay with us for some hoops tonight. Until Monday, this has been 580 Sports Talk.